Hi, George here. Let's take a look at how the Smart Brush works here inside of Photoshop Elements. You'll find the Smart Brush right over here. It's just underneath the red eye tool right there and right to the left of the clone stamp tool. Click on that and that opens up the Smart Brush options down here in the options panel. If you're seeing the photo bin right here, then just click on the tool options to see the Smart Brush options. Now what the Smart Brush does is it allows you to very easily put a lot of adjustments onto your image. We have all-purpose, artistic, black and white. Let me first explain how this tool works. Basically, you make a selection into your photo, and then it applies whatever effect you're doing into that selection. Real fast example here, we're on the blue skies, and I'll just brush into the sky with a Smart Brush. It selects that sky area and then makes it bluer. And it does that by adding over here, right-hand side, an adjustment layer. This is a gradient fill. Double click on the little icon and there's your gradient fill right here. So it applies that onto the image inside of that masked area. Okay, let's just do Control Z to undo all of that. There we go. So that's basically what this does and how it works. Let's see how these brushes work. And I think once you understand the brushes, you'll understand the tool much better. So we have two brushes down below here, the Smart Brush tool and the Detail Smart Brush tool. Notice how they both have options over here for adding or subtracting. And what these tools do is that they make selections. They're just like using a selection tool. The Smart Brush tool is the same thing as the Quick Selection tool. And the Detail Smart Brush is the same thing as the Selection tool. So you're just painting in a selection. The difference is that when you paint that selection in, then Photoshop Elements automatically applies that effect into that selection. So you think of these as selection tools, and you have a much better understanding of how this works. Of course, we can adjust the size on both of these. Brush size right here. Notice that on the regular brush, you have brush settings down here, which allows you to do a few settings that I normally don't even worry about. But with the Detail Smart Brush, you also can change your brush style in here, even getting into some of your fancier brushes. These are just your soft edge brushes, but if I scroll down a bit further, we get some of these texture brushes as well. So you can change the brush style. Although normally I just leave it at the default since we're just making selections with this. Over here is an inverse option that simply inverts the selection. Okay, so now we know these are really just selection tools. Let's see how this works. The easy one is the Smart Brush tool, since that's a quick selection. Brush into the area you want selected. You can add more. Notice that automatically gives me the Add to Selection option down here. We have Subtract, Add, or New Selection. I'll leave it at the Add, and I'll just add in more sky over here. Now, if we zoom in, you'll see that there are some problems on this. Let's just zoom in and go back to the Selection tool again. Here's a Smart Brush. And there's some problems like right in here. We can fix some of these things. And I want to remove this from our selections. Let's come down here and go to the minus brush or subtract brush. I can then remove that from our selection just like that. Hold the space bar down and you can move things around. Let's check everything else. Okay, we missed a bit over here on her shirt. So again, just remove that from our selection using that same selection brush. There we go. And a bit of the hand right down here. That's good. There's a little bit right inside the hand here. I need to put that in again. Now it's real small. So let's zoom in on that. There we go. And back to our selection brush on the Smart Brush. And I'll use the left square bracket to bring my brush size down real small like that. That's about a 4 pixel. And then just change this to an Add. And then brush into that selection. And that should do it for us. And I can fix that bit right there while I'm at it. Let's go back to minus and then just get that little bit right in there. Okay. And a little bit right up in here. And I think it looks pretty good. Control 0 to go back to fit screen. And there is that nice selection with a nice blue sky. Now you can show or hide that. It's on an adjustment layer. So I can just come in here and show or hide that layer. Let's now take a look at the hair up here. Refine Edge would really work out well for this hair, but notice that we're up here on the layer mask for the effect. If I come down here to the background to try using that Refine Edge, we're going to be losing this effect up here. So we have a little bit of a problem here. This Refine Edge will not work as you expect, but there is a workaround for this. Fairly easy to do. Go up here to Select, come down to Save Selection, give it a name. I'll call this one Sky. Choose OK. So come down to the background layer. Notice how we lose the selection here. Let's change the tool to one of our selection tools. Doesn't matter which one. I'll just use the lasso tool. Let's go back up here to select, and let's now load that selection. There's our sky selection, choose OK. We now have our selection back again here, and we're on the background layer. Okay, we can now use refine edge here. So I'll zoom in on her hair. Now keep in mind that the selection is reversed. She's not selected and the sky is selected, but that's fine for this. Back to our tool, refine edge, and let's brush over this edge here. And notice how now Photoshop Elements is doing a good job at finding the edges of that hair. That's good. Those spacebar and little movement will catch these two bits of hair right there. That's good. Spacebar, and looks like we're okay over here. Maybe right there is all right. That's done. This output to selection. Choose OK. And Control 0 to back to fit screen. So we've fixed our selection by refining edge on this layer. Let's make this into a layer mask. Hit the layer mask button. There's our layer mask. Now just take this layer mask and drag it up on top of that layer mask. And it's going to ask you to replace that layer mask. Choose OK. We've now replaced that layer mask up here with the one that we just did on the background layer. So we used our new layer mask, our adjusted one anyway, with the hair up here on our adjustment layer. Let's bring that back in again. And notice now that the hair looks perfect. So you can do that. You just have to do a little workaround to use the refined edge to do the hair in here. It just has to be done on the original layer and done with a different tool, and then simply replace the layer mask with your layer mask from below. That's the basic way of using the brushes. And that applies to all of those different smart brush options in here. So we did the blue skies, but the brush works the same for any of these different options. Let's now see what some of our choices are in here. We have all purpose. If you roll over and hover for a second, you get a little pop-up notice that tells you what this is. This brightens the image up, increases the contrast, darkens the image. Before I do any of that, though, I want to just remove the selection. I'll use the Control D keyboard shortcut to deselect. And we're again back over here to blue skies. We can increase contrast, darken image, intensify foliage. This adds more green into it. Let's give that one a shot. So do intense foliage. Back to our brushes, and I want to come in here and try to grab some of this greenery back in here, make that a bit greener. I think that improved that. Let's do a bit right in here and right down there. Got a bit of her shoe, doesn't really matter. Now we're not saying much of a change here because there's not that much green in here. Notice how I have a new icon down here. That shows me that this is the greenery smart brush being used. I use Control D to deselect that. So you can see how you can actually come in here and stack different effects if you want. We have our blue skies, and we also have this intensify foliage option. Black and white high contrast, turn image black and white reverse, sepia tone, white teeth, and then down below a lot of specialty ones, such as we have some artistic things in here. Here is a pencil sketch. We did a pencil sketch recently on this channel. So there's a pencil sketch. Now notice that doesn't apply that effect right here because we still have to go back and use the brush. So just brush into what you want to have turned into a pencil sketch. Like that. So there is your instant pencil sketch for just part of your image. Again, brushing into the image for that effect. Notice that this comes in as its own layer up here. There's your pencil sketch layer. So I could remove that whole effect just by deleting that layer up here, but I'll just use the Control Z and let's just back out as Control Z keyboard shortcut, back out of that effect. There we go. And Control D to deselect on that. This one's a watercolor painting effect. Again, all of these work by using the brushes to select an area after you have made your choice on your preset. So black and white. Color options, you can recolor things. Let's say I wanted to recolor this shirt in here to a different color. Let's grab this green right there. And I'll stick with the Smart Brush tool. And let's recolor her jacket this green. I think this should work out well for us. It's following that red coloration in there. There we go. We now have a green coloration. So you can come in, as you can see here, and do a lot of different effects on the same image. Each one of your effects comes in as its own separate layer with a layer mask. So if you have a problem, there's actually one right down here with her fingers. Let's take a look at how we can fix that easily on the layer mask. I'll zoom in on this. There we go. The fingers should not have been included into the green effect. So on a layer mask, black hides and white shows. So I want to hide that effect. So that's black paint. Let's go to our paintbrush right here. It's a pretty big size. I'll use the left square bracket to bring my size down. Make sure you're on the black color. Make sure you're on the layer mask. Look for that light blue outline. and then just paint onto the layer mask like this, and you can then remove the effect for that part of the image. If I wanted to add more in, like this little bit right back in here, it should be included. Let's just change the color to white so white shows, and I'll paint into that area, and that adds a little bit of a green effect into that bit right in there. So you can come in and control where the effect is being applied by controlling the layer mask for that effect layer. Okay, Control 0, go back to Fit on Screen. Now on these, you can come in and adjust the amounts if you want to, and that's this icon here. If I want to look at the greenery section, double click on that icon. These are adjustable layers, and this brings up those adjustments. I can then come in here and adjust that. Let's come down here and look at the greens. And let's make the greens more saturated for even more of a color effect. So that's way too much here. But I want to bring it in as much as I can, make it as bright as I can, and that's pretty good right there. Now, keep in mind that there also are potentially some blues or cyans or yellows in green as well. So I could come in here, we can try our cyans, and let's see if there's anything in here. Okay, not seeing anything on the cyans. Let's check our blues. Not seeing anything in the blues. Let's check our yellows. And there's a bit in the yellow as well, so a little bit more yellow. Also brightens up that green area. And then Control D to deselect that selection. Now, if you like this video, make sure you hit the like button, click on share, click on subscribe. My channel is fan supported, so if you want to help my channel stay on YouTube here, keep on making videos, consider purchasing my complete training course for Photoshop Elements. There's a link for that in the description, or supporting me over on Patreon. There's a link for that as well in the description. And I want to thank my current Patreon supporters, Eternity Mine, Steve Jazz, and a new supporter, Bad Wolf. And a special thanks to Mr. Moonpie, who just signed on as a booster. Thank you all. Your support is really greatly appreciated. And I'll see you next time.